Good afternoon. Come on up front. Come on up here, Jake. Good afternoon. We are here on a day, obviously, with a lot going on. First, I'd like to say that our hearts go out to the victims, their families in Fort Hood, and the things going on there. I know that both houses of Congress, both sides of the political aisle, are anticipating trying to get back to work to try and make sure things like that don't happen again. We are here, though, on a positive note, working together. Both sides of the Capitol, both sides of the political aisle accomplished something very big today. We set aside differences, we came together, passed a bill, and the President just signed into law the Gabriella Miller Kids First Research Act. And as you know, this is a bill that says that we as Americans put a priority on pediatric medical research, and in order to be able to do that, took monies away from political convention funding to make that happen. I think all of us here would say it's just a start. I'm joined, my House colleagues, Greg Harper, who is here from Mississippi, as well as Peter Welch, as well as my colleague Tom Cole from Oklahoma. And we also have with us two senators from Virginia, Tim Kaine and Mark Warner, who were very helpful in getting this done, as was Orrin Hatch from Utah. And we're delighted that they're all here. And Raul Ruiz, is also here as a physician from the House. He is from the 36th District of California near Palm Springs. Delighted to have his support here as well. At this point, I want to introduce Gabriella Miller's family, her parents, Ellen and Mark Miller, who are here with their son, Jake, from Loudoun County, Virginia.
Thank you. Don't do this very often, ever. I want to say thank you to everyone here today who has been so gracious to us throughout this process. Leader Cantor, Mr. Harper, Mr. Welch for championing, Mr. Cole for championing the bill in the House, and of course our senators from Virginia, Mr. Kaine, Mr. Warner, and the resident of Virginia, the senator from Utah, Mr. Hatch. It means so much to us that everyone could come together. We read in the paper, we see in the news that you would think that no one here likes each other. That furthest from the truth. They've all worked very well with each other. They've all been very kind and generous to us to support legislation that will prevent, hopefully, one day other families from having to come before you today to say the President signed a bill to spend more money on research. It's a start. There were 72 members of the House that didn't vote for this, and they said it because it wasn't enough. And my wife and I agree, it wasn't enough. And if the 72 of them have another pocket of money they would like to move over to pediatric disease research and pediatric brain cancer research, we are certainly happy to help them. This meant a lot to Gabriella. People have asked us how she would have handled the situation, what she would have said, and she actually wrote a letter to the President before she died, expressing her feelings about this, and Ellen would be happy to read that to you if you'd like to hear a little.
When Gabriella was first diagnosed with cancer, we found out that Gabriella qualified for a Make-A-Wish trip, and we found out shortly after that that Macy's was having a campaign for every letter written to Dear Santa or Dear Mr. Macy's, that Macy's would donate $1 to the Make-A-Wish campaign. So we decided we wanted to do that. And Gabriella delivered personally over 240,000 letters that she had collected from around the world. And the President and Vice President heard about that, and they wrote her a letter. So Gabriella starts out with this, as if the President, of course, remembered writing her this letter. Dear President Obama, back in December, during Macy's Make-A-Wish campaign, you sent me a letter. I collected over 240,000 letters and delivered them myself to Macy's. I'm writing back to ask you for two things. First off, why, out of $5 billion a year donated to cancer research, is less than 4% going to childhood cancer? All childhood cancers together. Never in a nightmare could you dream of having cancer, but here we are, us kids, living that nightmare, waiting for a cure. raise the amount of money going to childhood cancer. Secondly, September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. The childhood cancer ribbon color is yellow or gold. I was wondering if you could light the White House yellow for the month of September, and if me, good English, and some other kids could come and help you light it on the 1st. It would bring a lot of awareness. Give me your answer on the next page and then send it back to me, or visit me at the hospital. I'm always there. Thank you. Yours truly, Gabriella Miller. P.S. Please wear yellow when we light it. She was a tremendous advocate. Step back.
Well, a beautiful young girl fighting against terrible odds with a wonderful spirit and wanting to help others. Parents who, in their grief, wanted to channel it to do something good for families all across the country. A very important cause and an awareness that so little of our research in this country goes toward any childhood condition, cancer or otherwise. And fourth, a group of legislators who, despite being House members or senators or Republicans or Democrats, could see their way forward to tackle this cause, to honor this family, and to honor this young girl. That's what this is about. I want to thank everybody who's here, and especially my Senate colleagues, Orrin Hatch and Mark Warner, who, when the bill came over from the House, did really good work to clear some hurdles. You guys had hurdles on your side that we had to get over, and we had some on our side that we got over, but their help was significant. Leader Reid and Leader McConnell as well. But I also want to thank Eric. Eric came to me after the House bill passed and said, will you come and meet will you let me bring the Miller family to your office? And I said, absolutely. And all it took was one visit, Eric, with you and Mark and Ellen, and watching a little bit of those wonderful videos of Gabriella to say, we ought to be able to do this. So things were, a great Virginia governor, Governor Wilder, used to always say, when the thing is right, the time is right. This thing was right, and that's what made it happen. And to the Millers, you guys have done a wonderful thing for an awful lot of people by being at this cause. Thanks a lot. Chair.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, two questions. One for the family. Can you talk about what conversations you might have had with the president and if he actually answered your letter? And then for the lawmakers, the budget you all recently agreed to, the Ryan Murray budget, is $700 short on the NIH funding compared to prior sequestration. $700 million short. Why should we be celebrating $12.6 million increase? It seems like 70 steps back, 1 step forward.
We just gave the president the letter as we were leaving, so we just talked a little bit about it. He did mention that he would look to continue to support awareness for pediatric cancer research and to help with that awareness. And I know the second part of the question was directed to them, but I want to help answer that a little bit because
You go right ahead.
it's because we hear all the time that, well, it's just not enough. It was $700 million. It was $1 billion before, and here it's just $126 million. But from a family that lost a child to cancer, and from a host of kids that I took them into the Oval Office with us, kids that have died from cancer, kids that are fighting cancer, $126 million means an awful lot to them. And while it may not be enough, we may need more, and the mechanisms of that, of $4 trillion, is for them to figure out, but $126 million is an awful lot, and it's going to go an awful long way to helping the people that really need this research. Gabriella's tumor has never received a nickel of federal funding, not one nickel. Her researcher who has her brain at Children's National Medical Center has her tumor. $100,000 a year funds him. He's put in for a larger grant to research for 5 years. It's only $1.2 million. That's it. $1.2 million. It's never received a nickel of money. So if this $126 million, if 1% of that can go towards Gabriella's tumor research, then for everybody else who suffers from that or wherever else that may find, $126 million is a lot of money.
I don't think I need to say anything further.
I would like to hear what you have
Questions?
to say, though. Do you regret the cuts that were made to the NIH budget and sequestration? Do you regret not fulfilling those
You know,
cuts in the new budget?
I would say we have a lot of different areas of the federal government are now been reduced because of the fiscal squeeze that we're under. What we're about today is making a priority out of pediatric medical research. And we chose to take monies away from an area that taxpayer dollars perhaps shouldn't be spent on, prioritize those, put them towards a goal just as Mark stated, a goal that perhaps a family such as theirs in the future won't have to suffer such a tragic loss.
Peter Cantor, you were one of the first to see the video that Mike shot. You can't help but be moved by that. Can you talk about how Gabrielle's words inspired you and your touch by it?
Well, I think you just heard her father talk about the fact that there wasn't and hasn't been a nickel of federal research dollars being spent to try and help find a cure to what struck Gabriella. And when I heard and saw the multiple videos that Gabriella was on, it was so close and direct on point to what Greg Harper's bill was about. Now, Greg Harper teamed up with Tom Cole because both of them felt that a priority should be placed on medical research for pediatrics. And I felt that what an inspiring figure. If you've not seen the videos and the YouTube videos of Gabriella, please commend your viewers to them. They are something. Bring a tear to anyone's eye. And I think it was just that, a little girl who knew what had happened to her all of a sudden became adult-like at age 9 and 10 and said, this is really important, America, listen. And that's what we did. We listened. All of us were inspired, all of us from both houses, from both sides of the aisle, and now the president has joined us in this cause.
Can I just say a word to follow up on what Eric said to the first question? All of us want more money for pediatric research. We want more money for research generally. And you know what? I think there's going to be a day when there will be more. The difference this bill makes is when that day comes and there is more, we will have established the practice of trying to earmark monies into pediatric research. Because we were putting a lot of money into research, but 3 or 4% of it, only 3 or 4% of it were going to pediatric research. The virtue of this bill is not just the 10 years, 125. It's establishing that pediatric research in itself into cancer and other conditions that affect our most vulnerable and our most precious should get a priority and have focused attention. And that principle is established by this bill no matter what the funding levels are. I want them to be higher, but it will be better because of this bill when they are higher.
One more question? Yeah. Yes.
What about changing the metrics of how research dollars are divvied out and where they're allocated in terms of disease?
Well, you know, we've Congress before some of us have were here, and then some had a practice of dictating from Congress and Capitol Hill which disease should come first. And I personally believe very much we ought to leave that to the scientists and the medical professionals to make that determination. However, when you come to a broad category of pediatrics and you look at the insufficient amount of resources percentage-wise that are going to kids, certainly we can do something about that. Not choosing which disease, but the fact that if you are pursuing a cure for a childhood disease, the return on that in terms of life years and a return of a life certainly, I think, makes the case that we ought to be making that more of a priority. Thank you all very much.